This computer. All right. So for the sake of the recording, this is to go over comping. I'm going to share my screen and let me know when you guys can see it. Everybody can see it?
Yep.
Thumbs up? Yes. Yep. Okay. So comping, this is basically what I've learned from when I went to Tracy's Flippin school and things that I've picked up since then. We'll go over some guidelines, batch leads, prop stream, etc. Spreadsheet that I created that has the side-by-side comparison, calculating the rehab, some quick calcs, and exit strategy. So here with the guidelines, I try to loosely organize them based on what's happening with the listings, the features and finishes, the location, and what you're looking for outside. I'm not going to go through reading every single one of these, but basically what you're trying to do when you're comping is you're trying to find properties that are in the closest proximity to your subject property, right? So you're starting from a quarter mile from the property, the subject property, and you're going out from there. You don't want to go out for more than a mile. And you're looking at properties that are within 10 years of the same build date of your subject property, approximately the same square footage, the same rooms, bedrooms, bathrooms. And if it's one-story subject property, then you're looking for one-story comps, and really just taking a look at the overall neighborhood. What does the curb appeal look like? What does the backyard look like? What are the systems in the subject property, the finishes, the fixtures, compared to the properties that are in the neighborhood? So this isn't a property that you're trying to get up to the level necessarily that you would want personally. What you're really trying to do is just get it to the 2023 version of the properties that are in the neighborhood. That's really all that we're trying to do, not go overboard, because then that impacts your budget. You want to just get it right into that sweet spot where it's comparable to the properties in the neighborhood. And maybe you could throw a little flair in there. Maybe there's some wainscoting or, a nice little accent wall or something like that to give you a little bit of the edge. But you don't want to go overboard necessarily, because that impacts your numbers. So these are the guidelines. Batch leads, prop stream, Zillow. So if you're an agent, you can just go directly to MLS. But if you're not, then there are other programs out there that will contain all of that information. Then it's just a question usually of how accurate it is. If it's up on MLS today, is it going to show up on batch leads today or prop stream today? And overall, they're pretty accurate from what I've heard and what I've seen. So when you're in, this is a screenshot of batch leads. When you're in batch leads, you look up the address, and then what I'm also looking for and noting is when I'm looking at those comparables, I'm looking at what was the last sale price, when was it last sold, how many days on market was it before it was finally sold, and then I'm also looking at the current mortgage. Now, the mortgage balance that could be listed there is just estimated, as well as the payment. And I've also heard that sometimes the rate isn't completely accurate as well. So that's where it's really important that you don't just take it for granted when you're talking to the seller. You want to confirm all of that information, make sure that it is complete and accurate for what you're looking for. And that payment, that estimated payment that's listed there, is only the mortgage piece. It does not take into account the taxes or insurance. So if you're, you want to make sure you're considering that in your calculations. Excuse me. Distress indicators. So this is one cool thing that I like about, goodness gracious. So this is what happens when I start talking too much. When you're, what I like about batch leads is this really cool corner over here of distress indicators. So if there is any record of a property lien, or it's going into pre-foreclosure, if there's a divorce or bankruptcy, you can see the indicator here, and then you can go into the menus below to get more information on that. So super helpful here. My experience specifically with batch leads is that you don't always get all the pictures. There's information here that's not on Zillow, and I like the format, but sometimes not all of the pictures are here. So that's where I'll have batch leads on one screen and Zillow on the other screen, so that I can go through those pictures on the one screen, and I have my notes, and I'm looking at everything in batch leads on the other screen. So that's my little tip on that. Yeah, so once you click on comparables in batch leads, then you can start the filter process, right? We don't want it to just default to what's here, because that doesn't necessarily get us the properties that we're looking for. Note that I have not looked at the subject property yet. I used to do that. I used to look at the subject property first and then go look at the comparables. And what I found was that I was spending a lot of time going back and forth, because I'd look at the subject property and I would just make all of these notes about all the things that I had to do. And then I'd go look at the comparables and I'd be like, wait a minute, okay, that I could leave the popcorn ceiling, or wait, what did this have versus this? Oh, this. So what I started doing to save time is I go straight to the comparables first. I look at them before I even look inside or around that subject property. So on the filters in Arizona specifically, not going to speak to other states as far as a good time frame to look at, but in Arizona, you want to look at properties that are sold within the last 3 months. 3 to 4 months at max, because if you're trying to look at values that were a year ago, it's a very different market right now. So that's not going to give you a realistic idea of what the values are right now in that neighborhood. So filter to 3 months. This can be left within 10 years. Then you want to make sure you're setting this for the same number of rooms and baths. 15 is 20% square footage is fine. And then you want to set this starting out at 1/4 mile from the subject property. Now, you are working towards getting 3 to 5 comparable properties. So if you find that you've filtered this to 1/4 mile and you're not getting enough properties to look at, then you start edging your way out. So from 1/4 mile to 1/2 mile and so forth, until you can get your 3 to 5 comparable properties. The other thing is that in that list that you start to see, which is where we'll go to next, so you get your list of properties here, and you don't necessarily want to look at every one of these properties. You in batch leads, you can scroll over to the right and you can see what the sale price is. And anything that is within the same square footage, same number of rooms and bathrooms, but yet it's super high amount that it was sold for in the last 3 months, go ahead and mark that off. You don't even want to look at that, because it's probably, you could look at it, I guess, out of curiosity, but you don't want to include that as one of your comparable properties, because it's probably got all the bells and whistles, or something major happen with that property that you don't want to have that skew the rate that you're trying to come up with for what you think this subject property is worth. So the highest and the lowest you want to take out. Don't consider those. You want to get in what is the average price for the comparable property in this neighborhood, especially when you're looking at fixing and flipping. You're not trying to go too high and you're not trying to go too low. You want to be right in the middle, because that means that you can sell it faster, right? If you're trying to get too much and you're trying to get that high value, then you may not get it. And then that means that many more days on market that you're having to sit, and you want to move it fast. Let's see. So Batch Leads has this really cool way of saying, okay, I want to exclude any properties by doing a thumbs down. And once I do find properties that are closest to my subject property, that has all of the same rooms, bathrooms, and so on, then I can do a little thumbs up. And when I check the thumbs up, it starts to calculate that average price for me. So you don't even have to do that if you don't want to. So let's see here, just making sure I'm capturing everything. Okay, yes. And the last part that is super helpful is the price per square footage for each property, because you're not going to find properties that are going to have the is your subject property. So calculating the price per square footage, then at least now you know what the range is that you're looking for your property. And then to get to the nice side by side that I created. So for me, being in the data and working with Excel and working with numbers, and I guess just having that kind of a brain, it helps me to put all of this information that I'm seeing in a grid. I need to see it side by side. And so I created this Excel sheet with everything that I'm looking for. And this keeps going. I've got a nice long list here of everything that I'm looking for. But I start out with, here's my subject property, and then here's some comparable properties in that neighborhood. And I think I just kind of piecemeal this together. So don't rely on these numbers reflecting these properties. I think I just kind of piecemealed this for this training. So looking at my subject property, and then here's the comparables. The other thing that I'm looking at here, again, depending on what your exit strategy is sometimes you do want to look at the active properties or pending properties as well. Because if you're in a fix and flip property, then you want to see what your competition is like, right? So anything that is under contract or active that's right in your vicinity of your subject property, take a look at those as well to see how many days on market, what are they posting for on their sale price. Because if they've got more than what you have or what you're planning for your subject property, then you might need to step things up a little bit, or modify some of the things that you're doing with your subject property so that you're not having to compete with that. You can actually sell yours before they sell theirs, maybe, depending, of course, on how much work you're having to do and all of that. So you always want to rely on what's sold. Don't get me wrong. You're looking for what the sold prices are for the properties in your neighborhood, but just pay attention to what your competition is, depending on what your exit strategy is. And then here you can see where I've noted, You know, here's one property that was a 3-2. My subject property is 4-3. So when you do find properties that are in the neighborhood that might have some differences, like your property has a pool and the other properties don't have a pool, then you want to account for that in your price as well. Excuse me. And I've heard, you know, sometimes it's, oh, you want to add 5% or take away 10% or whatever. I think that it really depends on what that difference is. A pool obviously is going to cost thousands of dollars to put in. So, you know, if that's really important in that neighborhood, if everybody has a pool, and yours doesn't have a pool, then that's one thing, right? So it's an art for sure. It's an art. Okay. Now I think we're coming close to where we landed last week. So calculating the rehab. These dollars are again based on Arizona. So if this is out of state, or if you're looking at this out of state, then you'll have to fine tune these numbers to account for what you're seeing in cost of materials and labor. But after you've got all of your comps identified, you have it side by side, you can see, and I'm sorry, I'll go back here. You can see right here, here's my price per square foot. So the subject property, I'm getting a really good price here compared to what we're seeing here. But it could have been because there's a lot more work that's going to be involved with this property versus these other properties, right? So what all am I going to have to do to get it up to this level, right? I need to get it to an ARV of somewhere between 240 and 250, depending on how much I want to put into this property. So we know what to expect now for the subject property. We've viewed the pictures. We've noted everything that would need to be done. I like to make it red font so it really stands out to me on my Excel sheet. This is all of the work that I'm going to have to do to this property. And then at a very high level, rough estimate, if you're looking at doing minor cosmetic work, then you can estimate about 15 to 25 at the high end per square foot. So that you can take that into account with your calculation for how much do I want to offer, considering the amount of work that I'm going to have to do, and what the rate, the ARV that I want to get to. So per square footage, everything is per square footage. If you're going to have to do a bit more work to the property, so not, it's going to be more than minor cosmetic, or lipstick is another term, then you're looking at 25 to 45 per square foot in rehab costs. And if you have to gut the whole thing and start from new, in like all new systems and everything, then that's going to be 45 plus per square foot. So, and of course, here's the note that you want to make sure that you're adjusting that for your region. Let's see. So next, I'm just flying through here, and I don't know if we have any questions in the chat. We'll look at that later, I guess. So quick calcs. So I've played around a lot with how I calculate all of this stuff. I can't tell you how many different spreadsheets. But one thing that I really liked that I saw on biggerpockets.com was these quick calcs that they offer. Now, it's not to say that this is, you know, the end all and be all of it, right? But this is just one way to look at a property. And so you can see it at just a very high level of, is this possibly going to work or not? So, excuse me, using the subject property that we started with here, there's the 1 to 2% rule. So will it produce positive cash flow? So obviously the higher the percentage, the better the cash flow. So when you're looking at the purchase price and then looking at what the rental income could be per month, you want to have a bigger percentage, right? So if it's not at least 1% or 2% of that purchase price, then you probably want to say no deal on that. So I have a formula built in here where that's what it's doing. Is it's saying if less than 1%, tell me no deal, right? If that's all that I'm interested in, it is cash flow. Another quick calc is the 50% rule. So how much cash flow can we expect? And then on average, over time, 50% of the income is spent on operating expenses, except the loan payment. So it's just doing this, again, quick calc. So if you have rental income per month, what's 50% of that? 1,500. So your net operating income would be 1,500. Then you plug in the mortgage, what you expect the mortgage to be, and then that would be your net income or cash flow. So obviously I don't have a mortgage amount in here, but so it's just doing 1,500. So it's saying deal, right? And I've got my rule of thumb of, well, I would want to make at least $400 per month net income cash flow. So that's how I'm calculating, oh, this is a deal. Once I put that mortgage in, that may not be such a great deal then, right? So now it gets into some other calculations here. If you're a fix and flipper or wholesaler, there's that 70% rule. It used to be 65%. Now it's 70%. Most you would want to pay would be 70% of ARV minus repairs. But like I said, that used to be 65%. So it really depends on what's going on with the market, right? So let's just say that after looking at the comps, I estimate that the ARV for the subject property would be 427,231. 70% of that would be the 299,062. And I'm going to have to do a lot of work to this property. So to get it up to at the same level as the comps. So 86,400 is what I estimate. So then that means that my purchase price would need to be 212,662 for me to make enough or to have enough equity in this property and cover the rehab that I'm estimating. So this would be the most that a fix and flipper or wholesaler would want to pay, because 30% is expected to pay profit, fees, closing costs, etc. So if that doesn't quite work, then we've got some other notes here. So it doesn't quite work that well on properties with really low ARVs. So then you may require less. So the lower rule could be 50% rule. So if that's the case, then this is what I'm looking at here. So purchase price would be this. So it gets even lower. So that's not so great either. Doesn't work quite well on more expensive properties. So then now you're looking at doing 80% or 85%. So again, I got this from biggerpockets.com, just doing some quick calcs so that when you're looking at if somebody's presenting a property to you, you could just plug these numbers in, maybe do a rough estimate of your repairs, and you could say, okay, I am never, ever going to pay 77% of ARV. I'm not going to pay more than 77% of ARV, kind of in the middle here, right? Just given what the market is doing. Then if you can estimate what you think ARV could be and what your rehab would be, now you know, is this a deal or no deal? The other thing that I found super helpful with from Bigger Pockets again was a rent calculator or rent estimator. So on their tools menu, they have a rent estimator, And it's great for seeing the current rents for properties in that neighborhood. So you can plug in the address, make sure you have the right number of bedrooms and baths, and hit search or calculate, whatever that button is. And it will bring up with a rate, with a, what's the indicator, like a confidence indicator of how confident they are of that rent value. So if there's not a ton of rentals in that area, or if the data is just not good enough, they'll tell you, okay, this is kind of what we're estimating based on what we see for properties that are comparable to this property, but we're 50% sure. We're not 100% on this. But most of the time I've seen on the properties that I've been looking at, it's 97% or more confidence level. And you can scroll through those properties to see where they're basing that information on. So it's very cool. And it's only on long-term rentals though. So on that rent calculator, I think they do have other tools out there for looking at short-term rentals, for example, but they don't have that in this space. That's a separate space. The other thing is if you go back to batch leads, here is an estimated rent feature as well that you can just click to view this. And it also has a confidence score as far as what the value is that they think is happening, and then the rent. So that's a good way to kind of check your numbers there. Let's see, I think that's it on this one. Exit strategy. So maybe I should have started with exit strategy first, but I didn't. So you really have to think about what you might want to do with this property. And maybe it takes going through that whole process before you realize that this property is not going to be a good long-term rental. So I'm just gonna fix it and flip it. I don't want to keep this property. Or maybe it's not so good for a long-term rental, but given the area, what it's close to airports, it's close to entertainment, or it's close to hospitals. Maybe this would be a good midterm rental. So then you can make your calculations based on that exit strategy. If you're wholesaling it, then you don't necessarily have to worry about what the cash flow looks like, right? So depending on what you see with this property, what the surrounding areas are, and what you would, I'm going to move this over here since I'm looking this way mostly, and what you're trying to do, or what you could possibly do with this property, then that's going to be what drives your decision on how you move forward with it, right? So another cool feature in Bigger Pockets, I should get some kind of royalties off of this. Maybe I will if I post it, right? So they have a long-term rental analysis tool here that's really cool, makes it look very professional. All you have to do is plug in the values and it'll produce this really nice report, and you can put your logo on there, right? And this could be something that you're presenting to your capital investors or PML or whatever. And it'll do a short summary up here with your monthly income that you're estimating, what you think the expenses are going to be, cash flow, what that pro forma cap rate is. You've also got your cash on cash ROI, purchase cap rate, and then it starts to go through that property information here. Here's your income, and then here's the expenses here. I tried to fit everything all on there. Okay. That way you can see everything on one screen here. So you can see, obviously the mortgage is going to be the biggest payment, biggest amount here, or your biggest expense. Then you've got insurance, vacancy, CapEx, property taxes. You also have a space here that if you plan on covering the utilities or any portion of the utilities, if you have an HOA, then you can plug that in as well. For my purpose, I just estimate 5% vacancy, 5% CapEx, and 5% maintenance with the expectation that I'm going to self-manage. But if I didn't want to self-manage, then I could have, I could plug that cost in as well, and that would automatically get calculated here. So when you plug in what that loan amount's going to be and the estimated rate, say just 6% for 30 years, 1 point, then this is the estimate for your loan and your monthly principal and interest. Let's see what the rest looks like. Here we go. So then it gives you your financial projections. There's that 50% rule that they're calculating there. So when you do plug in the monthly the mortgage payment, now you can see that you're going to have some negative cash flow, right? It's going to be over that. And then what's really cool here is that it takes it out. So year 1 through year 30, what does all of this look like for you? Right? And then it gives you your annualized total return here at the bottom. So expecting 2% increase in expenses, income, property value. So very conservative expectation of what you can see happening with this property over time. And it does all of the calculations. So, and it doesn't stop there. Then you've got nice little graphs, right? So you can see, again, here's your income going up. Here's the cash flow going up. Expenses are just, going up a little bit, not too much here. But when you look at your loan, your mortgage, you can see that that's going down over time. So this just keeps going up and up and up. I really like the line graphs. I think that's super helpful. And we're right at 10 o'clock. Beautiful timing. I thought it might be helpful just to have some definitions here of what cash on cash return is and return on investment, just in case you're not familiar with those terms. So cash on cash return, it's measuring the amount of cash flow relative to the amount that you've invested in the property, right? And it's calculated on a pre-tax basis. And then it also says that it measures only the return for the current period, typically 1 year, rather than for the life of the investment on the project. You can also use it for forecasting, right, to see where you're at. Return on investment, it's a popular profitability metric used to evaluate how well an investment has performed. So it's expressed as a percentage, and it's calculated by dividing the net profit or loss by the initial cost or outlay, okay? The ROI can be used to make apples to apples comparisons and rank investments in different projects or assets. So that's why it's expressed as a percentage. Makes it easier to do that comparison. And this says it does not take into account the holding period or passage of time. So it can miss opportunity costs of investing elsewhere. And whether or not something delivers a good ROI should be compared relative to other available opportunities. So that's just some info on that. Okay. Any questions, any comments? I know this was just kind of a really quick overview of what my process is, being a long-term buy and holder. I'm really looking at what those long-term rental rates are versus what you could possibly get for midterm or pad split or short-term, right? So you'll have to adjust for that. But anything else? Any questions?
So Stephanie, is that just rental analysis, which is great? Is that through a subscription with Bigger Pockets, or is that is there a fee for that extra service?
Yeah, so you can, I think, get up to 4 or 5 free. But then yes, you do sign up for the Bigger Pockets Pro. And I had attended one of their webinars, I think, on multifamily. So there was a discounted rate if you signed up for Pro at that time. And it to me, I thought, given the tools that I had seen there, because that was something that was a pain point for me. I really was looking for a way to try to make my process more streamlined and not so time consuming, because I want to make this bigger, right? I want to get more and more properties, which means I need to fine tune my process for how I'm evaluating properties. So I thought that these tools that they offered made it super helpful and set me up for success in that way. So what's also cool is once you create or that those analyses for each property, it saves it for you. So you can go back to that report anytime that you want to. You can share it. You can print it to PDF. It makes it really, really nice. And I don't know what everybody's time is here, but if you wanted to see the report as it is, I could totally bring that up if you wanted to see it, or we could do that another time.
I might have to get going, but I'd love to know about it eventually, you know.
Yeah,
It sounds
we could
great.
totally do that. Yeah, I mean,
Yeah,
that could be like another meeting where we go through the Bigger Pockets website to see what some of the tools are that I've used so far. There's there's a
that'd be
lot of
good.
good stuff on there.
That'd be awesome.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. Well, does anybody have any other ideas or comments on this, or what you would like to see next time? I know Carol had mentioned that she saw a really cool opportunity with using AI. So that was something that we wanted to maybe put out there too and go through. I know I'm curious about that.
Yeah, I'm happy to do that. It seems like a lot of people already know about AI, so I feel like I'm just like the last one to really kind of get into it. But it's been really cool and helpful for me. So more so just like with the marketing piece and coming up with ideas of things to say. And
Yeah.
so I'm happy to do that. I do want to see more about the Bigger Pockets, and I'd like to see that the report that you actually get too. So
Awesome. Yeah, totally.
Hey,
All right. Well, yeah.
Stephanie, I have a question quick.
Uh-huh.
Because I've been trying to like look on Meetup and stuff. Where do we find the information for the real estate meetups that are happening here in the Phoenix area? I can't ever find any.
Oh,
And maybe
goodness.
that's something only for sub 2 that you guys get. I can't even find anything in our Gator stuff that lists. They have a spreadsheet there, but it's for like every place else in the United States except for us.
Well, so for me, the main thing that I always do every week is I go to Kevin Cho's meetup in Tempe. That's on Saturdays starting at 6 o'clock. And I can send you that info.
It's every week. Like,
Every Saturday.
Where can we see that? Like, is there some place we can see that on?
Yeah, I think that the best way that you're going to see that is to, if you're following him, he will post about it. So that's one way. Also, there's a group that's on Facebook that, now I can't remember the name of the group, but I'll get in there and see if I can invite you guys, because I think that is open to everybody, not just sub 2. And I think that they are posting that meeting there as well, because and if Kevin goes over any kind of Gator stuff, he usually will do that at 5 o'clock, but it's not necessarily every Saturday.
Okay.
So I missed it last week, which is a bummer. But he will post it on there as well, and others will hear about it and they will share it on that group. So I'll see if I can get you guys added to that group so that you can see about that. And then the meetup that I learned about yesterday was purely just by accident. Actually, the manual just told me that he was heading there. And so that's how I learned about it, and found out that it's the last Thursday of every month. And I've got the address, and I can put that out there to you guys as well. With that time, it's 3 to 6 p.m. But I would not recommend just going to like that meetups.com. That's more, it seems like, for everything but real estate. It's like more
Okay.
social.
Okay.
Yeah. The meetups that I've learned about really have been just through my connections with other people in real estate. They tell me about it, and then it's like, oh, wow, okay, cool. And I'm happy to share that information with you guys as I learn about it. Maybe we can well, if I get you on that group in Facebook, then that's one way that we could share that information there, so everybody knows about it.
Is that through the Creative Finance Facebook of PACES?
No, this was, somebody created a group in Facebook. I think it's like Phoenix something, or it could say creative. Now that I think about it, I am a part of so many groups. I just keep joining. I keep joining groups over and over, like, oh my
That's
gosh.
fair.
But I know a group that does have other people that we've already met and who are also in sub 2 or Gator, that I think that would be a great group to get you guys connected with. And then that way you can find out about these meetings. Of course, I will tell you from my experience, it doesn't